Good evening. How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Thursday, Yom Hamishi. Let's light up the darkness. Who's in the house? Belle in Texas, Lorraine in Texas. I never get both of you in a row with the Texas. Very good. Guy in Ohio, Melissa in Great Neck, Sharon in New Jersey, Karen in Northern California, Yehud in South Carolina, Nancy in North Carolina, Mickey in New Jersey, Chaim in Florida, Ilanit in Silver Spring, Alan in New York City. Welcome, everybody. We're going to keep it moving today. Nina and I have to rush off to an event as soon as class is over. So I apologize in advance. Probably there will not be time for questions at the end of today, which I never do that. But today we may need to rush off. Okay. And we're trying to do a double, and that's why, because I said we would, and we need to catch up. Okay, we're picking this up at the bottom of page 27b. We're continuing our discussion of Mishna number 5 here in chapter 3 of Tractate Shevuos, the 26th volume of the Talmud. Rava says, if one took an oath about a loaf and then ate it, right? So an oath about a loaf as opposed to an oath about it, right? What was the difference? If he says an oath about a loaf, that you won't eat from a loaf of bread, right? Just called an oath on a loaf. But really what it means is that you won't eat any of it, right? And so if you eat an olive bulk or more, because there is still a minimum measure, then you would have broken the oath. Whereas if you say an oath that you won't eat it, then it was interpreted by Rava yesterday, it means that you won't eat the whole loaf. So if you only eat a part of it, when you swore you wouldn't, you have not violated your oath until you eat all of it. Okay, that's where we were yesterday. Rava says, if one took an oath about a loaf and then he ate it, if he left an olive bulk of it, he may request that his oath about the loaf be dissolved. And if he ate the whole loaf, he may no longer request that his oath about it be dissolved because, in other words, if he swore not to eat it and then he ate it, well, if he hasn't finished eating it, there's still time to go to a halakhic authority and ask the oath to be dissolved. But once he has fully violated his oath, you can't retroactively dissolve the oath after you broke it. While you're in the process of breaking it, you could still get it dissolved, but not after you've fully broken it. Rav Acha, the son of Rava, said to Rav Ashi, what are the circumstances? If one took an oath where he said, I will not eat this loaf, which Rava, as cited above, understands as rendering it prohibited for him to eat any part of the loaf, then with the first olive bulk that he ate, he already committed his transgression. Should be too late to now have the oath dissolved. If he took an oath where he said, I will not eat it, right, which we learned from Rava, means that he's vowing not to eat the whole thing, then why does Rava mention specifically if he left over an olive bulk? If he left over any amount, he hasn't finished eating it, and therefore he should still be able to have the oath dissolved. Right? Even if he left any amount, it would also be possible for him to dissolve the oath, as he had not yet broken his oath. Now we're on page 28a. Rav Ashi answers, if you wish, say that the law stated by Rav is referring to a case where he took an oath saying, I will not eat this loaf, right? Which means not eat of the loaf, not eat any of the loaf. Even small parts would therefore violate it. Right? If you wish, say that the law stated by Rava is referring to a case where he took the oath saying, I will not eat from this loaf. And if you wish, say that it could be referring to a case where he said, I will not eat it. Right? So there's a way to interpret this so that either, no matter whichever oath he took, there is still space for him to have the oath dissolved. How so? The Gemara explains, if you wish, say that the law stated by Rava is referring to a case where he took an oath saying, I will not eat this loaf. Since a request for dissolution is still effective, even for the last olive bulk of the loaf, it is effective also for the first olive bulk. Therefore, you can dissolve the oath even late in that process. And if you wish, say that the law stated by Rav is referring to a case where he took an oath saying, I will not eat it. If he left an olive bulk, that is a sufficiently significant quantity for which to request dissolution of the oath. But if he did not leave that much, it is not a sufficiently significant quantity for which to request dissolution of the oath. Rava assumes that once a person has eaten the entire loaf, it is no longer possible to dissolve the oath. Right? He said he swears an oath that he will not eat it, right? And that means that he's only violated that if he eats the whole loaf. Okay, well, once he eats the whole loaf, he has clearly violated his oath if he swore not to eat it. Is it possible to retroactively dissolve the oath so that his eating of it then therefore retroactively becomes not violative, that he did not violate his oath? Is that possible? Right? The Gemara raises an objection to this from a Baraisa with regard to one who took 2 vows of nazirus, right? To abstain from the product of the grapevine, to not cut his hair, to not become impure for the dead for a certain amount of time. That is a nazir, like Samson in the Bible. So with regard to one who took 2 vows of nazirus and counted the first term and separated an offering for it. When you complete your days of nazirus, then to actually finish the process of being a nazir, you shave off all your hair, and then you bring certain offerings to the holy temple. That's why we don't do this anymore, because you can never end it. In order to become allowed to drink wine again, you have to bring these you have to bring the offerings, shave, I think immerse in a mikveh, and wait for nightfall. That's when you complete the whole nazirus process. So with regard to one who took 2 vows of nazirus, and he counted the days of the first term, obeyed it, he didn't break the nazirus, and then he separated an offering for it, for his first term of nazirus. And then, before he brought those offerings, he requested and received dissolution of the first vow from a halakhic authority, which renders it as if he never made that vow of nazirus. And then the second term would be counted for him in observance of the first term, right? Because he did days of nazirus, and he had 2 vows that he swore sequentially, but then he had the first one dissolved, right? Even though he only had it dissolved after he observed all the days of nazirus and separated the offerings to bring at the end, but he didn't bring those offerings. It sounds like he can still have his vow of nazirus dissolved. And therefore, now his second vow that he made of nazirus can be satisfied with those days that he already counted, and perhaps even those offerings that he separated in order to fulfill the first vow can now be used for the second vow. That's what it seems to say. With regard to one who took 2 vows of nazirus, and he counted the first term and separated an offering for it, and afterward he requested and received dissolution of the first vow from a halakhic authority, so then the second term was counted for him in observance of the first term, and he is not required to be a nazir any further. Although the first term of nazirus was entirely finished, a halakhic authority could still dissolve the vow after he finished observing the days without wine, without cutting his hair, without becoming impure for the dead. Now the Gemara answers, whoa, what are we dealing with here? We are dealing with a case where he has not yet atoned. He has not yet brought the offerings that he separated. Therefore, he never completed that first term of nazirus, and that's why he could go and have that vow dissolved. Even though he finished the days of nazirus, he hasn't brought those offerings, so that whole process hasn't been completed. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in a Baraisa that one can still dissolve his vow of nazirus even after he has atoned, even after he brought the offerings? And the Gemara answers, it is a case where he has brought the offerings but has not yet shaved his hair. So he didn't complete the process. And this is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who says shaving is indispensable to the completion of nazirus. If he didn't shave his head at the end, after he brought the offerings, he hasn't completed his nazirus. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in a Baraisa that one can still dissolve his vow of nazirus even after he has shaved? And Rav Ashi said, are you comparing nazirus, which is a vow, to oaths, which is a different structure, right? With a vow, you render something prohibited to yourself by declaring that it is prohibited to you. With an oath, you swear before God that you will or won't do something, or that in the past you did or didn't do something. It's a different device. So now, wait a minute. Are you comparing Why am I having a problem here? But isn't it taught, let me just go here. But isn't it taught in a baraisa that one can still dissolve his vow of nazirus after he's shaved? And Rav Ashi said, are you comparing nazirus to oaths? What caused the second nazirus to not take effect until now? It was the first nazirus. And once it had been dissolved, it is no longer a factor. Since the observance of the nazirus term is the same whether it is counted for the second or for the first term of nazirus can be regarded as not yet having started, and that is why it can be dissolved. By contrast, in the case of an oath, once he ate the loaf, the oath is no longer extant at all. A Maimar said, in contrast to the opinion of Rava, even if he ate the entire loaf, he may still request dissolution of the oath. In other words, he said, right, he swore an oath that he will not eat it, right? So that would mean he has to eat the whole loaf in order to violate his oath. And then he ate the whole loaf. Okay, so it sounds like he violated his oath. Too late to now go back and dissolve the oath. But sounds like a Maimar says, no, even after he ate the whole loaf, he can go back and have it dissolved. Even if he ate the entire loaf, he may still request dissolution of the oath. If he ate it unwittingly, i.e. he forgot that he swore an oath, it is a situation where he has not yet brought the offering that he is liable to bring. If he ate it intentionally, it is a situation where he has not yet received lashes. In other words, if you can compare to nazirus and say that he not only is observing the days of nazirus, even when you've completed the days, you could still have the vow dissolved because you haven't brought the offerings, or even if you brought the offerings, you could still have the vow dissolved because you haven't done the shaving of the hair. Well, then likewise, one who swore an oath and violated it, since he hasn't yet brought an offering for violating it unwittingly, or he hasn't received lashes for violating it intentionally, it's like the process hasn't been completed, and therefore he should still be able to have his oath dissolved. That's a Maimar's argument. Right? If he ate it intentionally, it is a situation where he has not yet received lashes. But if he was tied to the stake in order to receive lashes, then he can no longer request that his oath be dissolved in accordance with the opinion of Shmuel. As Shmuel says, if one had already been tied to the stake in order to receive lashes, and he ran away from the court and escaped, he is exempt from receiving lashes, as being tied to the stake is regarded as the beginning of receiving the lashes. Once he has escaped, he is treated as though he were already flogged. The Gemara rejects this whole argument, and that is not so. Even if he was tied to the stake, he can still have his oath dissolved. There, with regard to his exemption from receiving lashes after he ran away, the original flogging is over and there's no need to initiate a new one. But here, with regard to dissolving the oath, he did not run. And since he is still subject to lashes, he can still have his oath dissolved because the whole process of swearing an oath, violating an oath, receiving lashes for it has not been completed, that whole process. Therefore, it is not too late and he can have his oath dissolved. And if it is dissolved, well, then, of course, he is not going to get the lashes. It's as if he never swore it. Therefore, he never violated. New subject. Rava says, if a person says, on my oath, I will not eat that loaf if I eat this one. Okay? So this is a guy's on a diet. He realizes he has a problem. He eats too much bread. So he swears an oath that if he eats this loaf of bread, he won't eat a second loaf of bread. Okay? But the way he says it on his oath, he will not eat that loaf if he eats this one. Right? So having eaten this one, until then, he has no oath in place about the loaf over here. But he says, if I eat this one, then I swear I won't eat that one. So once he eats this one, now he has an oath in place that he won't eat that one. The wording of this is just a little tricky, but we need to be able to keep that straight for the analysis which is coming now. Okay, again, on my oath, he says, I will not eat that loaf if I eat this one. And then he ate the first one. the loaf whose consumption was the condition for the oath taking effect on that one. But he ate this loaf unwittingly. He forgot that this loaf was the one that if he ate it would trigger an oath on that one, right? So he forgot that. So he ate the first loaf unwittingly, and then he ate the second one intentionally. He forgot that if he ate this one, it would create an oath not to eat that one. And he ate this one not thinking about that. And then he ate this one knowing he was eating it, but not thinking that his oath had kicked in. Does he become liable? He ate this one intentionally. He ate this one unwittingly. So what are the possibilities here? Either there's going to be no fault. He didn't really violate his oath because it was circumstances beyond his control. Or it's going to be unwitting violation of his oath, which would trigger liability to bring an offering. Or it's going to be intentionally violating his oath, which would trigger lashes if he was warned, etc. So which is it? In that situation, where he ate this one unwittingly and this one intentionally, he's exempt. No offering at all. Why? Since he fulfilled the condition unintentionally, the oath never took effect, as it was not with full intent. But if he ate the first one intentionally, so now he knows he's eaten the first loaf, now he's going to create a vow that he cannot eat that one. So he eats this one intentionally, knowing that if he eats it, it will be prohibited for him to eat the other loaf. And then he ate the second one unwittingly. So he forgot that he took this oath when he ate the second loaf. Now he is liable to bring an offering for breaking his oath unwittingly. If he ate both of them unwittingly, he is exempt, as the oath never takes effect when he fulfills the condition unwittingly. Now we're in 28b. In a case where he ate both of them intentionally, if he ate the loaf whose consumption was his condition and then he ate the forbidden loaf, then, and he did that intentionally, he was warned, so he would be liable to receive lashes. If he ate the forbidden loaf and then ate the loaf that was whose consumption was this condition, right? He said this one becomes forbidden if he eats this one. But what happens if he eats this one first? Now, and then he eats this one. Now, retroactively, that would mean that this one was prohibited. But at the time he ate this one, it wasn't prohibited. So then what? If he ate the forbidden loaf and then ate the loaf whose consumption was his condition, then his liability is the subject of a dispute between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. According to the one who says that an uncertain forewarning is deemed a valid forewarning, he is liable to receive lashes. According to because somebody might have said before he ate this one, hey, listen, if you eat this loaf now and then later you ate that loaf, then it would be that you ate this one is prohibited, and so you would. Do you really want to do that? And then he does it. Then he would receive lashes. But since there's no certainty at the time of giving the warning that this whole thing is going to happen, that would be a case of uncertain forewarning, and therefore we would not assign lashes according to the one that says uncertain forewarning is not forewarning, right? This is the dispute between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. According to the one who says that an uncertain forewarning is deemed a valid forewarning, he would be liable to receive lashes. And according to the one who says that an uncertain forewarning is not deemed a valid forewarning, he would be exempt. If one took an oath with regard to two loaves, that he rendered them interdependent. This one on that one. What's that? He would say like this: I will not eat that if I eat this, and I will not eat this if I eat that. Right? So he's saying what matters here is that I need to lose weight and I don't want to eat two loaves. So if I eat either one of these first, the other one will become prohibited. Right? They're interdependent. And then he ate this one intentionally with regard to itself, i.e. at the time he ate it, he was aware that he had taken an oath that would render it forbidden if he ate the other. But unwittingly with regard to the other, i.e. he did not remember that in eating it, he rendered the second one forbidden. And then he ate that one intentionally with regard to itself, but unwittingly with regard to the other, he is exempt, as both conditions were fulfilled only unintentionally, right? He created this whole oath structure so that he wouldn't eat the second loaf. But then, this guy was sloppy and he forgot exactly what he swore, and he ate the second one not thinking or not realizing that it was prohibited. So he never really created the condition, because when he ate the first one, he wasn't thinking, okay, when I eat this, the second one is going to become forbidden. That is what he originally said, but he forgot that he said that. And so because it's not just that he forgot an oath that he swore and then he ate unwittingly, but he forgot a condition that he created. Therefore, the condition never kicks in. If he ate this one unwittingly with regard to itself, having forgotten that it would be forbidden if he ate the other, but intentionally with regard to the other, understanding that with his action he rendered the other one forbidden, and he ate that one unwittingly with regard to itself, but intentionally with regard to the other, he is liable to bring offerings for unwittingly breaking his oaths, as the conditions were fulfilled intentionally and the oaths took effect. He knew when he ate the first loaf that it would render the other one forbidden. Then he forgot when he ate the second one that it was forbidden. This would be unwitting violation of his oath, where he's liable to bring an offering. If he ate both of them unwittingly, he is exempt, as both conditions were fulfilled only unintentionally. If he ate both of them intentionally, what do you think? Lashes. Right? If he ate both of them intentionally, he is liable to receive lashes for eating the second loaf, while for the first loaf, his status depends on the dispute between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish with regard to certain versus uncertain forewarning. Rav Mari said, we learn in the Mishna, Tractate Nedarim, page 20b, as well, that if one takes an oath with a condition, but then fulfills the condition only unwittingly, he is exempt. So the sages dissolved 4 types of vows, not oaths, without the requirement of a request to a halakhic authority. Vows of exhortation, vows of exaggeration, unwitting vows, and vows whose fulfillment is impeded by circumstances beyond one's control. These are vows that never take effect. The Mishnah elaborates, right? A vow is a nadir, that's why it's Tractate Nedarim. In that, and then we're going to see if that law of Nedarim applies to Shevuos here. Right? So unwitting vows, how so? If a person says, a certain item is forbidden to me, like an offering, right? Konam, it's going to be prohibited to him as if he had consecrated it. If you consecrate something, it belongs to God, it belongs to the temple. You can't make personal use of it. If you don't consecrate it, but you say it is like an offering, the word for that is konam, then it becomes prohibited to you, right? So that's a vow that renders an object prohibited to you for eating or use. Okay, if a person says, a certain item is forbidden to me, like konam, so if I ate, he says, this item will become forbidden to me, it will become konam to me if I ate or if I drank, right? So he forgot that earlier in the day, he had a snack. He forgot that snack. So he thinks he didn't eat anything all day, right? So he says, hey, that thing is going to be konam to me if I ate or drink, because he's confident that he didn't eat anything today. So this is just a rhetorical flourish. He doesn't intend to make it konam. And then he remembers, oh, wait a minute, I did eat. So that means that the condition that he created would now render this thing konam. It would render it prohibited to him. However, right, if one says, this thing will be konam to me if I ate or drank today, and he then remembers that he did eat or drink, or if one says, this loaf is konam for me if I will eat or if I will drink, and he then forgets that he said that, and he eats or drink, in all these cases, the item is permitted. The vow never took hold. Why? And it's taught in Baraisa with regard to that Mishnah, just as unwitting vows are dissolved, so are unwitting oaths dissolved, since he fulfilled the condition while lacking awareness that he was doing so. He wasn't saying, I'm not sure that I ate or drank. If I already did, then this thing is konam to me, right? And so that's what he's trying to, there he's more mindful of his diet. He actually believes he didn't eat or drink, and that this was just talk. And that's why the vow won't take hold. And the Gemara clarifies, what are the circumstances of unwitting oaths, where you swear before God as opposed to just declaring something prohibited? Is it not a case like this, where he takes an oath with a condition and then fulfills the condition of the oath unwittingly? Conclude from that Mishnah that there is support for Rava's opinion. It is related that the sage Ephah learned Tractate Shevuos in the academy of Rabbah. And his brother Avimi met him and tested him concerning the laws of oaths. Avimi said to him, if one says, on my oath I did not eat, and then again, on my oath I did not eat, what is the law? He swore twice that he did not eat in the past. And then it turns out that he did eat. So did he violate one oath or two when he swore an oath that he had not eaten earlier? What is the law? Ephah said to him, he is liable only once if he ate, because the second oath has already, it does not take hold, since there's already a note saying that he swore an oath that he hadn't eaten already. And Avimi said to him, no, you have confused the issue. It's not that he swore an oath that he won't eat something in the future, and then he swears another oath that he won't eat the same thing in the future. Here, he swore an oath that he didn't eat in the past, and then he swore again that he didn't eat that thing in the past. And it turns out that he did eat in the past, but he made two utterances that are oaths. Right? You have confused the issue. Since the oaths are about the past, it is not a question of whether the second oath takes effect. Each time a false oath was issued, and each was a separate transgression. Avimi asked him further, if one said, on my oath I will not eat 9 pieces, and on my oath I will not eat 10. What is the law? Ephah replied, well, he is liable for each and every one of the oaths, as the scope of the second oath is broader than that of the first. Right? So we said that if you swore not to eat grapes, right? And then later you swore not to eat grapes and figs, right? And then you ate grapes. Did you violate one oath or two? And the answer is 2. Even though you had already prohibited grapes on yourself with the first oath, because the second oath included a new element, the figs, that whole oath takes hold. And so you did violate 2 oaths when you ate grapes. But that doesn't apply here. Why? Because all he's talked about is number of pieces and not necessarily the same pieces. Right? You have confused the issue. If he may not eat 9, he may not eat 10. The oath not to eat 10 cannot take effect, since it is an action already prohibited by the oath not to eat 9. Avimi asked him further, if one said, on my oath I will not eat 10, and on my oath I will not eat 9, what is the law? And Ephah replied, he is liable for only one oath. Avimi said to him, no, you have confused the issue. According to the first oath, it is 10 that he may not eat, but he still may eat 9. So the second oath does take effect in that it prohibits him from eating 9. Abaye said, there are times when you find that the ruling of Ephah with regard to an oath not to eat 10, followed by an oath not to eat 9, applies, as in the case mentioned by the master. As Rabbah says, in the case of one who says, on my oath I will not eat figs and grapes together. And then he says, on my oath I will not eat figs. And he unwittingly ate figs and set aside an offering for breaking the second oath. And afterward he unwittingly ate grapes alone. He is exempt from liability for breaking the first oath. The grapes are tantamount to a half measure, because that first oath was, I will not eat grapes and figs together. So if he ate either one separately, he didn't violate that oath. That's a half measure. The first oath was not to eat grapes and figs together. And one is not liable to bring an offering for a half measure. Here also, where he said, on my oath I will not eat 10, and then he said, on my oath I will not eat 9, and then he ate 9, and set aside an offering for breaking his second oath, and later he ate the 10th. This 10th is tantamount to a half measure of his first oath, and one is not liable to bring an offering for a half measure. Now we're on page 29a. Mishnah number 6. We just completed our discussion of Mishnah number 5. Here's Mishnah 6. Which oath is an oath taken in vain? Now we can go a little bit fast because we had actually already explored this Mishnah. It came up earlier in our discussions about other Mishnahs. So this will sound familiar. Which oath is an oath taken in vain, which was mentioned in the previous Mishnah on 27b? It is when one takes an oath to deny that which is known to people to be true. For example, one says about a stone column that it is made of gold, or about a man that he is a woman, or about a woman that she is a man. In the Talmud, everyone knows who's a man and who's a woman. Another type of oath taken in vain is when one takes an oath about a matter that is impossible. For example, if he says, if I did not see a camel flying through the air, or if I did not see a snake as large as the beam of the olive press. In the case of one who said to witnesses, come and testify for me, and they replied, on our oath, we will not testify for you. That is an oath taken in vain, because it involves taking an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah. If you have testimony that is needed to be heard in a court case, you can't decline to give testimony. That's an oath of testimony. You have to do it. You can't take an oath that you won't do it. That would be an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah, and those never take hold. Other examples of this include an oath not to build a sukkah, or not to take a lulav, or not to wrap tefillin. Right? If you took an oath to violate a mitzvah, you didn't do anything. But would we call it an oath in vain? Obviously, you're not bound by your oath not to do a mitzvah. But are we going to say that the statement that you made when you said you wouldn't do a mitzvah is an oath in vain because it is not permitted to take such an oath? This type of oath is an oath taken in vain, for which one is liable to receive lashes if he takes the oath intentionally, and for which he is exempt if he takes it unwittingly, right? Because what do we do when we take an oath? We're swearing before God. If we're swearing before God something that is impossible, then it's like you're taking God's name in vain. And that's why that's an oath in vain. If one said, on my oath, I will eat this loaf, and later he said, on my oath, I will not eat it, right? You can't, what are you going to do? You swore you will eat it, and then you swore an oath that you will not eat it. So either way, you're going to violate one of those oaths. So if one said, on my oath, I will eat this loaf, and he later said, on my oath, I will not eat it, the first oath is an oath on an utterance. He's bound by it. It was permitted to take that oath. The second oath is an oath taken in vain, as he took an oath to perform an action that would violate his previous oath. It's like taking an oath to violate a mitzvah. If he ate it, he violated the prohibition against taking an oath in vain. If he did not eat it, he violated the prohibition against breaking an oath on an utterance. That's Mishnah number 6. Now the Gemara. With regard to an oath taken in vain that denies that which is obvious to people, Ula says it is considered known, right, in terms of what is known to people, when it is a fact that it is known to 3 people. Once a fact is known to 3 people, it's like the public knows it. The Mishnah describes an oath taken in vain where one takes an oath about a matter that is impossible. For example, where one says, if I did not see a camel flying through the air, right? So he's saying he swears that he's going to, either he swears that he saw a camel flying through the air, or what he's really saying is he swears that he will do something, like, I don't know, donate a huge amount of money if he did not see a camel flying through the air. So what he's saying is he did see a camel flying through the air. That's what he's trying to say. So he's swearing that he saw a camel flying through the air. And we all know that camels don't fly, so this must be an oath taken in vain. The Gemara points out the Tana, the Mishnah, did not say, on my oath I saw. Why does he word it as, what is the meaning of, if I did not see? So Abaye says, amend the language of the Mishnah and teach, on my oath I saw. Rava said, this is part of a larger statement where one says, let all the produce in the world be prohibited from me if I did not see a camel flying through the air. Right? He's sure he saw it, and no one believes him, so he's swearing this huge, big oath, that he's never going to have any produce for the rest of his life. He can't eat vegetables, he can't eat grain, he can't eat anything that grows from the ground. If he didn't see that flying camel, that's how sure he is that he saw it. But we all know he didn't see a flying camel, so this is an oath in vain. He's going to be permitted to eat produce, but he is liable for violating the prohibition in the Torah of swearing an oath in vain. With regard to the oath, if I did not see a camel flying through the air, Ravina said to Rav Ashi, perhaps this man who took this oath saw a great bird, and he named it for himself Camel. And when he took the oath according to his own understanding. Okay, he saw a big bird flying through the air. To him, it looked a little bit like a camel, and so he named it Camel. So now he's saying, I saw a camel flying through the air. He doesn't mean a dromedary. He means that this bird, that in his mind, he named it Camel. And if you would say that we follow his mouth, i.e. the generally accepted meaning of what one says, and we do not follow his understanding, i.e. his own private meaning, But isn't it taught otherwise in the Baraisa? When they administer an oath to him in court, the judges say to him, know that it is not according to your own understanding that we administer this oath to you, but according to our understanding and according to the understanding of the court. And what is the reason they say this? Is it not because we say, perhaps it was a case where he gave tokens to his creditor, right? He's swearing that he paid the lender. He paid back the loan, right? And he paid him 100 dinars. But what he really did is he gave his lender 100 checkers. But in his mind, he refers to checkers as dinars. So he can swear truthfully that he gave 100 dinars to pay back the loan, even though all he gave was checkers, right? And so this would be a case where he's swearing truthfully according to his own understanding. And that's why the court adjures him when they takes an oath in court. Yeah, it's not according to what you have your weird understanding in your head. It's the commonly accepted understanding of the language. Rav Ashi replies, no, the reason the court admonishes the oath taker is not that the oath can be interpreted according to a private meaning unless they warn him not to. There, when the court administers an oath, they explain that it is according to their meaning due to deceptions, like that of the reed in Rava's court, where a person took a cane and filled it with dinars. And then the lender that he needs to pay money to, he walked up to him and said, could you hold my cane for me while I tie my shoe? And so the guy holds the cane, not knowing that the cane is filled with gold dinars. And then the guy ties his shoe and he takes back the cane. Later in court, he swears, I gave 100 dinars to my lender. Because in his mind, he knows that he handed 100 dinars to the lender. The lender never knew he was holding that money. He just thought he was holding the man's cane. That was a deception so that a person could swear truthfully. The Gemara and they adjure the witnesses or the people testifying in court about their words have to have regular meanings in order to prevent that kind of deception. The Gemara suggests, come in here, Baraisa, and so we found that when Moses administered an oath to Israel that they would keep the Torah, Deuteronomy 29, verses 9 through 12, he said to them, know that I am not administering this oath according to your understanding, but according to the understanding of the omnipresent, and meaning God, and according to my understanding as God's representative, not yours, no matter whatever's you're thinking. And why not let him simply say to them, keep that which God said? Is it not that he insisted on admonishing them because he was concerned lest they direct the oath in their minds to idolatry, saying that they are taking an oath of loyalty to God, but privately intending the oath to be for their version of God, some kind of idolatry? But the Gemara rejects this. No, Moses explicitly indicated that the oath was according to God's and his own understanding because idolatry is also referred to with the word God. As it is written, you shall not make with me gods of silver or gods of gold. That's part of the Ten Commandments. Therefore, the generally accepted meaning of the oath is ambiguous. The Gemara suggests if private meanings do not affect the content of an oath, let Moses merely say to them, keep the Torah. And the Gemara explains that they could then have taken the oath to keep only one Torah, either the written Torah or the oral Torah, which are both referred to as the Torah. Obviously, they go together as a unit, but in their minds, the people might have split it. The Gemara suggests, and let him say, keep two Torahs. The Gemara explains, the word Torah also has a narrower meaning of a set of halakhic procedures. The Jewish people could then have limited the oath to the law of Torah's sin offering, or the law of the Torah's guilt offering, right? In fact, we're reading it in Parshas Naso right now, this week's Parsha. This is the law of the sin offering. This is the law of the guilt offering, right? So the word Torah can mean the whole Torah, written and oral. It can mean either written Torah or the oral Torah, or it could mean one subset of laws within the Torah. We use the word Torah for that too. The Gemara suggests, let Moses administer an oath to keep the entire Torah. And the Gemara replies, that could have been understood as referring only to the prohibition of idolatry. As the Master says, the prohibition of idolatry is so severe that with regard to one who denies idolatry, it is as if he affirms the entire Torah. God really hates idolatry, and one who rejects idolatry, it is as if he affirms the whole Torah for himself. The Gemara suggests, and let him say to them, keep the mitzvah, i.e. that which you are commanded. And the Gemara replies, well, that could have been understood as referring to only one mitzvah. The Gemara suggests, well, let him say, keep mitzvahs, in the plural. The Gemara replies, well, that could have been understood as saying, keep two mitzvahs. The Gemara suggests, let him say all the mitzvahs in their entirety. Well, that could be misunderstood as referring to the mitzvah of tzitzis. As the master says, the mitzvah of tzitzis, or fringes, that Jewish men wear, the mitzvah of tzitzis is equivalent to all the other mitzvahs. Right? So this is why Moses had to say to the people, it's not according to whatever you're in your mind thinking the Torah means. For you to keep the Torah, you have to submit to the Torah as it is written by God and expounded by me, Moses, right, the first of the sages of the Torah, and the subsequent sages in the oral tradition. That's what it means to keep the Torah, and that's what we all swore we would do at Mount Sinai. The Gemara suggests, and let him say to them, keep 613 mitzvahs. There are 613 commandments that apply to Jews. The Gemara explains, and according to your reasoning, let him simply say, take the oath according to my understanding, Moses' understanding. Why do I need him to say according to the understanding of the omnipresent? Now we're on page 29b. I'm almost done, but I'm not going to say questions or comments. Get them in because we're going to have to fly away. The Mishnah teaches with regard to an oath about a matter that is impossible. For example, if I did not see a camel flying through the air, or if I did not see a snake as large as the beam of the olive press. Wait a minute, I didn't finish that question. Why not according to the why does Moses say, why doesn't Moses just say, you are swearing to keep the Torah according to my understanding? Why does he also say according to God's understanding? Now on page 29b. So rather, Moses administered the oath in this manner so that there would not be any possibility of the nullification of their oath. An oath taken with public consent cannot be dissolved. Okay. New subject. The Mishnah teaches with regard to an oath about a matter that is impossible. For example, if he says, if I did not see a camel flying through the air, or if I did not see a snake as large as the beam of the olive press. And the Gemara asks, and are there no snakes that large? But wasn't there a certain snake during the years of the reign of King Shapur? One snake that could contain, i.e. swallow, 13 stables of straw. That would be a big snake. And Shmuel said, the size of the snake is not the subject of the analogy. The oath is referring to a snake that was flat, taruf, like the beam of an olive press. And the Gemara asks, aren't they all flat? And the Gemara explains, snakes' bellies are flat. And the oath is referring to a snake whose back is flat. I think there are snakes like that, but they were not known in Babylonia. The Mishnah teaches, if one said, on my oath I will eat this loaf, and later said, on my oath I will not eat it, the first oath takes hold. It is an oath on an utterance. And the second is an oath in vain, because he swore to violate his own oath. If he ate the loaf, he violated the prohibition against taking an oath in vain. If he did not eat it, he violated the prohibition against breaking an oath of an utterance. And the Gemara asks, now, if he did not eat it, he is liable because he violated his oath on an utterance. Is he not also liable for an oath taken in vain? An oath was issued in vain when he took the oath not to eat the loaf, as this required a violation of the oath he had taken to eat it. What difference does it make whether he ate it or not, since he already had an oath to eat the loaf, and then he swore another oath not to eat it? Hasn't he uttered an oath in vain as soon as he utters the second oath? And Rabbi Yirmiyah said, teach the Mishnah with this emendation. If he did not eat it, he also violated the prohibition against breaking an oath on an utterance. And that concludes our discussion of Mishnah number 6. We'll pick it up with Mishnah number 7 tomorrow. I apologize that I can't take questions now, but maybe we'll note them for tomorrow if it's important. Tomorrow's class, regular Friday time, noon Pacific. Have a great night.